presentation this time is what technical information is available on the American Bonanza Society's website, and more importantly, how to find the technical resources that you need on bonanza.org. So we're going to look at the website, and there is a tremendous amount of information available for technical support of our airplanes on the website. We're going to look at some of the different things that are available for you. First, under the aircraft index, you can browse by airplane-specific models. For example, the Bonanza, and scroll on down, pick one at random, V35A, and this is what you get on this part of the website. You'll notice maintenance documents, but if you click on that, it's going to tell you you have to log in. This is why very frequently members will look at the website and say, I don't see the pilot's operating handbooks, for example, because they're not logged in yet. So let's go back and log on to the website and see what it looks like if we do the same thing. Log in, get signed up, and then back up to the home page, aircraft index, browse by model, Bonanza, and I used at random V35A. So we'll use the same one again, and now you'll see there are two boxes here, the pilot's operating handbook and the maintenance documents. The pilot's operating handbook's available there. You can click on it. It's available in PDF. You can download it. You can store it in ForeFlight or something like that, and it's searchable. Click on maintenance library, and you see a substantial number of documents that apply in this case to a V35A. So we're going to look more closely at the documents, the service information that's available on the website. Before we do, notice that some airplanes, like the B-55, have multiple pilot's operating handbooks for different serial number ranges. So you can select the one that applies to the serial number you're looking for. Of course, you have to be logged in to see any of the pilot's operating handbooks. Let's go back to the maintenance library. Again, there's a long list of items on the maintenance library. We'll look at the different sections, the different types of documents that are available. First, service bulletins. Service bulletins are issued by Beechcraft. These are things that Beech recommends owners of airplanes should do. They're all recommended procedures. For example, installation of improved sealing on emergency exit windows. It's not really a safety of flight item, but it is a recommended item from the manufacturer. Now there's another class of service bulletins that's called a mandatory service bulletin, an MSB. Mandatory is a little bit overstated, at least under rules for private aircraft operated in the United States, because they are not regulatory, they are not required by law, but Beechcraft does require them under some circumstances. They are still recommended procedures from the manufacturer, but they may be required for the airplane to be in warranty. Now, warranty doesn't really apply to the vast majority of the Beech airplanes out there, but in some cases, with a new airplane, if you don't comply with the mandatory service bulletin, then the warranty is void for that particular item of equipment. Mandatory service bulletins are safety of flight information, and they are often incorporated into airworthiness directives. We talked about ADs before, and ADs will usually reference some manufacturer's data. You have to do this thing in accordance with Mandatory Service Bulletin 2269 or whatever. So the mandatory service bulletins can become mandatory if they're incorporated in an airworthiness directive. Some regulatory agencies outside of the United States require compliance with all mandatory service bulletins. And if Bonanza or Baron is operated commercially for charter or something like that within the United States, in most cases, commercial operations require compliance with the mandatory service bulletins. But for the vast majority of Beech owners, MSBs are still merely recommended procedures. All right, so you might have something like inspection and replacement of the foam insert in fuel cell reservoir area. That kind of sounds important because if I've got a problem with the foam baffling inside my fuel tank, it might block the fuel flow. So these again are safety of flight items. And most pilots, most airplane owners will eventually comply with the service bulletins on the airplane. All right, service bulletins on our website. Whether they are SB service bulletins or mandatory service bulletins, it's just the way our website is set up, are all identified as SB. We don't have the MSB for the mandatory ones. So you would have to click through them to see which ones are considered mandatory. All right. From there, we move on to what are called service instructions. So we've got the service bulletins, now service instructions. And service instructions, you scroll on down to the next category under a large blue box on our website, and they're identified as SI. And a service instruction is a suggestion for things that you might do that generally do not impact directly safety of flight issues. Extra inspections you might do, adjustments you might make, some alterations you might want to make to the airplane, and things that might affect the aircraft's longevity. These will not be incorporated into an airworthiness directive because they're just not considered to be that impactful on safety of flight. But a lot of folks like to comply with these things as well. For example, installation of an alternative lock for your door. That's not a safety of flight item, but it might be something that's going to make the door more secure on the ground when you lock it, or it might be something, maybe the lock lasts longer, or maybe you just can't get the old style lock anymore, and this is a new type of lock that they suggest you use if you need to replace it. So those are service instructions. All right, scroll on down from that. We have service bulletins, service instructions, and then you get down into what are called, see there's a lot of service instructions, get down into what are called safety communiques. Safety communiques, issued again by Beech, Textron Aviation, are more generic operating and maintenance suggestions. Not necessarily even specific to the Beech airplanes, but things that you might want to consider doing in general. Some things here like operating instructions for air-charged propellers, implementation of training techniques in single-engine operations for the twin-engine folks, reservoir tanks and baffled fuel cells, maintenance and repair sorts of things, whether or not and when you can use automotive gasoline in Beech airplanes, and lubricating flap drive cables. So these are all generic operating suggestions from the manufacturer that are called safety communiques. And then now there is really a newer category of safety communique that's called a model communique. It's just the way that the Beech folks changed the way they designate these things. Model communiques are also even more generic information about safely operating the airplane or maintenance suggestions. And Beech calls these, the Bonanzas and Barons, Debonairs and Travelers, the executive series airplanes. So these are executive series communiques, safety communiques, or model communiques, and they break them up into the single engine types and the multi-engine types. There's not one just for Bonanzas or just for Debonairs, but this will apply to all single engines, and these will apply to all the twin engine ones. And those are identified with an MC for model communique, and again, lots of generally longevity issues and basic safety related to the airplane. So those are the service instructions that are available on the ABS website. Now, we have curated all of these service instructions, service information, to the individual airplane types. In other words, I clicked on the V35A. The list that comes up are those items that somewhere in the applicability that Beech applies to these includes V35A. It's not going to have Baron stuff unless it also applies to Bonanzas. Go on the, I showed the B-55 Baron page there when I showed it had multiple pilots operating handbooks. If you click on the safety information for the Baron, you will get only those that apply to a B-55 Baron. Now, many of these apply across the board, so when we tag them, they get picked up on a lot of different of the individual model pages, but when you look through here, every one of those that is on a page for a given airplane model applies to that model you're looking at. These are only the bulletins that come from Beech. Over the years, Raytheon, Beechcraft, and now Textron Aviation, Hawker, Beechcraft, whatever. We have been granted the authority by Beechcraft to post this information on our website. We do not have authority to post information from, say, Continental Motors or Lycoming or Macaulay Propeller or any of the other ones. So to find service information for things other than the airframe itself, you need to look at the original equipment manufacturer websites for that. Continental, most of Continental's bulletins are available open source. You can go on continental.aero.aero and find all of their bulletins. A lot of the Lycoming stuff is open source as well. Some of the component manufacturers, you have to log into their site to be able to get into it. But what we have is just from Beechcraft. And big question we get a lot, how about the maintenance manuals and such? We do not have the authority from Textron Aviation to post maintenance manuals on our website. Beech considers those to be a profit center for them, maintenance manuals. So you have to go to the Textron Aviation website, establish a paid presence on the website, and then you can download those maintenance manuals and updates. But we have all of the safety information available for us on the website. Now, notice that so far, talking about aircraft technical information, we spent all of our time over here in the aircraft index. We haven't even looked at the maintenance manual or maintenance menu yet. So let's see what we've got if you click on maintenance on the website. All right. Click on that, and we've got a long menu here. The first item is the maintenance library. If you click on maintenance library, guess what? You pick an airplane model, and where does it take you? It takes you to the maintenance library for that model of airplane. So it's an alternative way to get to the maintenance information that applies to your specific model of ABS type airplane. All right, how about inspection guides? We have these two inspections guides that Air Safety Foundation has created, the landing gear inspection guide and the flight control inspection guide. Those are available for a free download in a PDF. You can print it out, take it to your mechanic, you can email it to your mechanic. Each one of these guides includes some basic information about that system. It includes a detailed checklist to follow to inspect that system during an annual inspection, much more detailed than is included in the Beechcraft annual inspection checklist. It's all based on over 40 years of experience of doing service clinics and Beechcraft maintenance evaluations, the things that we've learned that you need to look for in those systems. Interestingly, or importantly also, our checklists are arranged in a particular order because in the process of inspecting the landing gear system, for example, if you do step 5, that will in turn affect what you're looking at step 7. And if you do step 7 before you do step 5, then you won't get an accurate result from the step 5 inspection. So not only does it increase the amount of information that's available for the mechanic to check, but it also gives them the proper order to be able to get the correct results that you would anticipate from the maintenance manual information, and so that if something is incorrect, you can make a correction there at that point and then get proper results for the rest of the inspection process. So the checklist, each one of these maintenance manuals includes basic information, a detailed checklist, and then an amplified section that has illustrations and photos and additional information to tell the mechanic how to conduct each one of those steps on the inspection checklist, what sort of things we commonly see wrong on those steps, and how to address those. Often it's how to address is, hey, see the maintenance manual page, whatever. Other times there are other suggestions based on lack of information in the maintenance manual or just additional information we've learned over the years. So we've got the maintenance guides available from the maintenance menu. We have the Beechcraft maintenance evaluation description off the menu, and you can click on that to sign up for maintenance evaluation of your aircraft. So that description is on the menu there as well. And then after that, the Find a Mechanic function. Click on Find a Mechanic, it takes you into the database. You can search geographically by name, or you can just scroll down and see the whole list of mechanics. Those with the icon on the far left are mechanics who have completed, who have attended our ABS Maintenance Academy program. So you can find a mechanic in the area that you need to find a mechanic, whether you're buying an airplane new and want to find one locally, you're looking for somebody to conduct a pre-purchase inspection on an airplane that's somewhere other than where you are, or you're stuck somewhere on a trip and you need to find somebody who can help you fix your airplane. So right now we have 240 individuals who have added this to their member profile. So there's a reasonable assumption that these are active mechanics that are able to take your calls and your emails and help you out if you need them. All right, more on the maintenance menu. Mechanic training is there, aircraft technical information, we're going to come back to that. Then we've got tips for finding a maintenance shop. This is a quick description of what an airplane owner might do when interviewing mechanics to see if that mechanic or that facility is knowledgeable and capable of taking care of their airplane. And it also has a link to the Mechanics Academy, Maintenance Academy graduate list on the Find a Mechanic page. We also have some documentation, suggested shop equipment list, recommended shop manuals and documents. So these are things that an airplane owner can look at and say, hey, do you have these items? Oh yeah, you're probably a good place to take my airplane to get it fixed then. You don't have these items, maybe I need to find someplace else to do my annual inspection. A click to the tips for buying a Beechcraft page, simply because people that come here are typically in the airplane buying mode, and pre-purchase inspection facilities that are recommended by other ABS members. So you can click on all those sorts of things. So we have this section on finding mechanics and evaluating maintenance facilities available on the website. Let's go back up to the menu. After tips for finding a shop, pre-purchase inspection checklist. We have this pre-purchase inspection checklist on the website. It looks a little deceiving at first because you scroll down, but you only get the first page. You have to go up to the top and click on the link to get the full checklist. But there are three parts of it. The first part is evaluating the documents. The second part is evaluating the airplane itself, what the mechanic looks for in the inspection. And then lastly, a flight survey, what you as a pilot might look for if you have the opportunity to take an airplane for a test flight before you buy it. And you just run through all of these inspection items, and then eventually you can have a much better understanding of the airplane's maintenance and operational state, and you can continue your negotiations for buying after that. We need to update the branding a little bit, but we've had it out here for a long time and it's very useful. A lot of maintenance facilities use this inspection for pre-purchases. It is not an annual inspection. It's not nearly as thorough or invasive as an annual inspection, but it does give a real good overview of the state of an airplane that would allow somebody to make a decision whether or not to continue the purchase process on a particular aircraft. So that's on there as well. Go back to the maintenance menu, and we have the Ask a Mechanic function, which takes you directly to the Tech Tips section of the member forum. So you can ask mechanics, you can search for information, type in your question and see if somebody's answered that already. And The ABS technical advisors participate in this, and other knowledgeable ABS members also participate and provide a lot of good information there. All right, so we've seen everything on the maintenance menu except the real meat of it, which is the aircraft technical information pages. So let's go take a look at the technical information pages back up here on the website. Technical information, click on that, and you go to this landing page. Now this page causes you or allows you to choose the model, or at least the broad area of models of airplanes that you want technical information about. It's broken down in several categories, one for the G36 and G58, one for Barons and Travelers, factory turbo airplanes, 520, 550 airplanes, 470 series airplanes, and E series. As a matter of fact, you'll notice that the breakdowns are very similar to what we see in the Online Learning Center. Now it's important, just like in the Online Learning Center, that although we identify engine models here in a lot of these designations, this is really a way of identifying the systems of the aircraft of that vintage of aircraft. So you select the airplane's original engine, not something that's been upgraded later on. If you have an E-Series Bonanza that you've put an IO470C engine on, you want to click on the E-Series, because that's going to give you most of the technical information you need about your vintage of aircraft. So it's the original factory engine, not what you've modified it with. Now, if you have modified the engine to, let's say you put an IO520 on it, click on the one that applies to your original configuration, and then you can also look in the 520, 550 section to see if anything there specifically applies to the modifications that you've got. All right, well, click on one at random. Let's do the 520, 550. Let's see what's on that page. All right, several different things. We've got checklists, we've got periodic inspections, we've got troubleshooting, we've got out-of-print maintenance information. Let's look and see what's all available on the technical information page. Bearing in mind that these on this particular page are curated for single-engine airplanes that originally left the factory with an IO520 or 550 engine. We don't have anything in here about the twins. We don't have anything on this page about the E-Series airplanes unless it also applies to that vintage. So if you're wanting information about the fuel system, you won't see fuel systems that are radically different from what's on your airplane on this page. And if you look on the Baron one, you'll see the Baron stuff, but not the Bonanza stuff. So it is all curated that way. So let's look a little more closely at what's all on there. First, we have periodic inspections. We have a link to the factory's annual inspection checklist. We ourselves, ABS, does not have its own annual inspection checklist, but we do have a link to the one that comes out of the maintenance manual for, in this case, the Bonanzas and Debonaires. There is also a recommended 50-hour checklist, rarely done in private airplane operations, but there is a factory recommended inspection checklist for every 50 hours. We have a link to that as well. And then we have an overview of the suggested overhaul or replacement schedule for items that apply to this particular group of airplanes from the Beech Maintenance Manual. This is where it tells you, for example, the landing gear transmission should be removed from the airplane and overhauled after 2,000 hours in use and all that sort of thing. But this is all links to factory information about periodic inspections of the airplane. Next down, we have basic service information. Now this is different from the bulletins that we looked at earlier, although some of these are bulletins. And you'll notice for the rest of this page, the technical information page, some of it is information that was a real hot topic at one point in ABS history. Maybe not so much now, but at one point this was some of the most important information you could get about your airplane because there was some specific issue going on at that particular time. We do have a link here on how to conduct an airworthiness check AD list for your airplane. There is still a rudder airworthiness directive. We've got information about that there for some of the airplanes. For a while, there was a big deal about circuit breaker replacement, and AD required replacing all the circuit breakers. So that's there. An alternate means of compliance, because for a long time, when the circuit breaker issue was a problem, Beechcraft couldn't keep up with the total number of circuit breakers it needed to ship. So there were alternatives. They're still out there. The VTAL airplanes, some of which are 520, 550 airplanes, have had several airworthiness directives over the years that apply to the tail of the airplane. The most recent one is 22 years old right now, so it's nothing current, nothing happening now. It's old historical data, but we have just one-page fact sheets. This is what you need to know about a C-35 through V-35B or an earlier VTAL to make sure that it is in compliance with all those ADs that were required several years ago. So those are in there. There's information here about adjusting the fuel flow systems on the engines, although this is a little bit dated and it's in a newer manual at Continental now. Instructions for doing bore scope inspections and compression tests, and a bulletin that still comes up a lot with folks, recommendations on power settings used in cruise flight. All of this sort of service information is there, and as time goes on, we'll be adding to this and probably putting some of this a little bit further behind as it's no longer a hot ticket item. Next, troubleshooting information. All right, something's broken. How do I fix it? The fuel indicating system is a common issue needing a lot of adjustment and some expertise to make those adjustments. So we have some documentation written by our technical advisors on how to do these things. And also, how do you check your landing gear transmission while you're in flight to make sure that you're not overstressing the landing gear in the process of retracting and extending it. So there's a quick check on here that Bob Ripley developed, and you can do in your airplane occasionally to make sure that your landing gears are rigged properly. We also have some information about some common repairs, how to fix the forward cabin door hinges, which is a bit of a chore if they get broken, servicing the shimmy damper on the nose wheel to keep it from vibrating during landing. And strangely enough, they still use plywood floorboards in the bottom of the airplane, and technically they have to be replaced with plywood, but there are all alternatives available to do them in composites. You can get some local approvals for doing that. We have information about doing that here as well. All right, getting down toward the bottom, some information about modifications to the airplane. Some of the more common modifications members might have questions about. We have the type certificate data sheet for the airplane model. We have a list of the original engines and STC'd or modified engines that are approved for each model of the airplane located there. For the early Model 36 Bonanzas that did not have club seating where the middle row seats faces rearward to create a passenger compartment, a lot of owners like to modify their airplanes so that they can have club seating in the back, so we have information on how to do that. Replacing original wingtips with later style wingtips, that's a fairly common thing in the late 1950s, early 60s vintage airplanes. And although it's been a long time since it's been updated, a list of the available modification kits from the manufacturer to modify the airplane. And actually having a little bit dated information is a good thing here because some of this information is no longer supported. But you can look on this older list and see if yours is an older airplane that has a kit modification. You might say, yeah, that really was a Beech kit, if you ever have to substantiate that in some way. All right, we're getting close to the bottom, but we have a number of out of print service information items on here. If you've got an old T3 autopilot and your mechanic needs to know how to fix it, we've got the information here. We've got a whole lot of things like that on the website. We've got older style tip tanks from manufacturers that no longer exist. We got information about that. Many of our airplanes had a device called Magic Hand, which automatically extended the landing gear in certain flight regimes so the pilot wouldn't accidentally land gear up. It took a lot of adjustment. As a matter of fact, most of them have been disabled because of that, but we have the information about that. If you've got that on your airplane or you have it and you want to reactivate it, we've got the information there for you. None of this is in print anywhere else, so we have it available on the website. All right, we have some general operational and safety things on here. Guidance about the legality and safety of doing flight instruction in a single control airplane. There was a landmark investigation into the safety of VTOL airplanes, and conclusions were that they met all certification requirements, but we have a link to that original report on there. Some now dated, but AOPA, Air Safety Institute, safety studies on the Bonanza and Debonair, all sorts of information available that is really just general operational safety stuff. Almost to the bottom here, we have sort of miscellaneous other resources. The FAA put out a guide in 2002 called Best Practices for Maintaining Aging General Aviation Airplanes. And so it's sort of a how-to project on aircraft longevity. What might you do in addition to annual inspections to keep your airplane safe over the decades? We have sign up for the beach maintenance evaluation. We have information about the online training available for your airplane here, and a link to the member forum if you have any questions. Then we've got a whole lot of stuff about the SPAR web investigation and the carry-through SPAR. This is all historical data. It's been a long, long time since this all concluded with the FAA blessed conclusion that there was no safety of flight issue. However, if you ever need any of that sort of information, it's available there for us. And even if you do need to get the repair done, shops that our members have recommended for putting that repair on your airplane. Lastly, we have what's called the technical resources list. Now, the technical resource list is the very last link on each one of the individual pages, or you can go directly to it from this landing page for aircraft technical information. This is the super secret list of where to find parts, where to get things that our ABS technical advisors use. The technical advisors occasionally get together and they share their contact information for various issues. And we've got 7 pages of them, all arranged alphabetically by the type of system or issue you're dealing with. But in each case, it gives you what you're looking for, like where do I get my starter overhauled? Well, hey, Aerotech at Louisville does that. Here's their contact information. And notice this has been updated just less than a year ago. So this is the super secret list of contacts that our technical advisors use to answer your questions about where to find things and where to get things done. And it's available by clicking on the Aircraft Technical Resources link on the information page. All right, so looking at it a little more big up, it looks like that. But all sorts of information is on there. And again, it's periodically updated. It's less than a year old right now. All right, so lots and lots of stuff is available under the maintenance menu and also on the aircraft index on the ABS website to help you fly and maintain and support your airplane.